Hey guys, I hope all of you guys are doing really well. Welcome to another video. So this video, I'm going to break it up in two parts. First, I'm going to talk about blades. And then we're going to get into the review of one razor. So let's talk about blades for a second, shall we? Now this is your regular double-edged safety razor blade. It's called as double edge because it's got an edge on the top, it's got an edge at the bottom, so basically two sides, right? Now, you guys will know this, that these blades are what I would like to call pliable, right? They bend easily, as you guys can see. Now, in order to make sure that razor manufacturers can account for this, what they do is that they focus a lot on blade clamping so that the blade is held tightly and it's bent in the right angle so that it can cut your hair. And what that leads to is less of a blade chatter when you're going ahead and shaving your hair. Now, this is the exact same reason why slants came in as well. If you remember when we had talked about slants in my slant series, what it's doing is simply the same thing. Rather than the clamping, more than that, it's twisting the blade so that it's making it more rigid. And then obviously it'll fit in a razor and you can cut your hair. Now, what if I told you that there is a better way? But that requires us to use some entirely new, different type of blades. So I'm talking about single edge razor blades, which are purpose-built specifically for shaving, but they have a single edge. For example, let's talk about this gem blade. If you notice, the gem blade is a lot harder. You can't go ahead and bend it, right? The similar one, this is a injector blade. Injector blade, in the similar way, you'll notice, yes, it's got a little bit more flex, but nowhere as much of flex as a regular safety razor blade. This is the third type of blade, again used for single edge. This blade is called as artist club blades. Again, there is a little bit of flex, but the flex is a lot lesser. The other thing that you guys need to know is that these blades have been there for a while. For example, when we're talking about a gem blade, they have been there for a while. This is a vintage gem razor, which uses this particular kind of blade. In the similar way, this is the Chic Injector razor, which uses these blades. Again, this is a vintage razor. That means these razors have been used for quite some time. The latest of all these single edge safety razor blades is this one, which was created by Feather, called as the Artist Club razor blade. This was primarily made to be used with their shavettes. So they have the Kamisori style shavettes, as you guys can see. And they have the typical straight razor type shavettes as well. Now, funnily enough, Feather never went ahead and created a regular razor to use this blade, but there are many other companies which have done so. So in this series of single edge razors, we are going to be taking a look at some of the common ones that you could go ahead and you could pick up. So this marks a start of the single edge razor series. Now, some of you might say, hey, what about razors like the Leaf Twig, the Parker Solo Edge? Yes, they are single edge razors as well. However, the blade still remains flexible, which is why if you're looking for a slightly better quality of shave, looking into these purpose-built single edge razors and their blades might be something that you might want to go ahead and do. And you know, the purpose of this channel is to give you as much information so that in case if you are thinking about buying one of them, hopefully that's a razor that I have already covered and my review helps you. Before we get into the razor review for the day today, let me talk about a few of the pros and cons of these single edge razor blades. Now, in terms of pros, obviously, like you guys saw, they are a lot more rigid. That means when a razor is being created to hold that blade, it does not require that level of clamping that a normal dual edge safety razor does. For example, if you guys have seen the latest batch 004 from Blackland razors, I will put up a picture on the screen. You will notice that that particular razor does not even have a top cap. That razor's gem blade is just held in place by a couple of clamps. This goes to show that the rigidity of such blades reduces the amount of extreme clamping. What it also does is, due to the rigidity of these blades, you end up getting far more number of shaves because the blade is able to retain its sharpness compared to a more flexible regular dual edge safety razor blade. So what that typically means is, let us say you get anywhere from 3 to 5 shaves with a regular DE razor. You might end up getting anywhere from 8 to 10 shaves from one of these single edge razor blades. However, as a con, what you guys need to keep in mind is these single edge razor blades, because of the thickness of the steel, cost a little bit more. So keep that in mind if you're going down this particular journey, because if these are the kind of razors that you end up loving, you might spend a little bit more on blades. Now that being said, now let's get into the razor review of the day today. So for the purposes of today's video, we're going to start off with the very first Artist Club safety razor from Adopted Acres, called as the Chisel Plow. This is what the razor is. Now, one thing to keep in mind, Artist Club razors, apart from the ones made by Yachi, they tend to cost a little bit more than your typical double-edged safety razors. Hence, this razor coming in at $44, I think is a phenomenal value, just from the value point of view. I do have some thoughts about how the razor is, how it shaves, and who is the right person to go ahead and pick it up. All right, so let's get into the review of the Chisel Plow, and let me share my thoughts with you guys with how I think the razor is. So the Chisel Plow razor is made out of completely brass. But one of the things that you need to keep in mind is the size of the razor. Now, this is the RazorRock Hawk version 3. Now you will notice that overall dimensions in terms of left to right will pretty much be the same because that's the size of the blade. However, this razor seems to be a lot more nimble compared to this razor. In the similar way, if you compare it to the Blackland Vector, the Blackland Vector looks like a baby in front of the Chisel Plow, right? So why am I sharing this with you? Because you need to factor that in. Given that this razor is made out of complete brass, it's heavy. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put how much it weighs on the screen. The second thing is that being heavy and a lot of the portion of the razor being on the top means that it is top heavy. So please keep that in mind. In case if you're looking at a balance point somewhere here, you won't get it. So you will have to hold the razor up a little bit more towards the top in order to get a proper shave. Now, how does the razor work? So this is just the body of the razor, and then it comes with these two separate caps. This particular cap seems to be a little slimmer overall than this cap. That means your blade exposure on this cap is going to be a lot more forward compared to this cap. So I shaved with both of these over the last couple of weeks. My personal preference is this cap because it gives the safety bar a little bit more space from the edge of the blade so that I can get a slightly more comfortable shave. when it comes to this particular one, the safety bar, or rather the edge of the safety bar and the blade is pretty much right there. So just keep that in mind. The second thing with this one is this bottom part of the safety bar is like a rolling bar. It's supposed to roll while you're shaving. Now I thought that'll help me get a slightly milder shave, but it didn't. So between both of them, my recommendation for my own personal use is going with this one, although it has the ridges, so you might feel, oh, is the blade feel going to be more? No, actually the blade feel for me is a little less in this one. So how does the razor work? The razor works with the use of magnets. So it's got a very strong magnet right over here, as you guys can see, and it's got strong magnets at the back of each one of these bases as well. So what you're supposed to do is, once you have put, and it's got magnets here as well for the blade to be seated, which I will show you guys. So the way that it's supposed to work is you load the blade and you put it here and then just push this on the top and it locks in place. Once you're done with the shave, all you need to do, in case if you want to clean it right away, which I always recommend that you should do so that there is no rust, you just bring this down, it opens up, and you just pull this piece out. Remember, the magnets are strong. So let's go ahead, let's load a blade onto this. So I'm going to load this with a Feather Professional blade, first use. As soon as you put the blade on top, the magnets on the base plate will hang on to the blade and you just need to go ahead and put it in place. All right, now that we have done this and the blade is in place, just like I showed you guys, you will take the base of the razor, align this magnet right here, and then with the bottom button, so to speak, just push it on top. And you are ready for the shave. So for the purposes of the shave today, we are going to be using Glacial Lemon Chill along with the matching splash. So let me get the lather built and then let's start the shave. Alright guys, the lather is ready and I've got the lather in the brush as well. Working with 1 day of growth, so let's start. Lather is good. I like this Glacial series from Sterling. Very nice on, okay, some lather fell. I need to pick it up. Very nice on hot summer days. And Sterling, as always, value for money is phenomenal. Alright, I wet the razor. First use Feather Professional. Let's begin the shave. Remember, even though with this other plate that we are using, the blade exposure is pretty much out there. So pressure and technique is going to be key with this particular razor. Just got a haircut. I need to line up my sideburns. So if you notice the way I'm having to hold the razor, because it's got such a flat side, I'm having to hold it from the sides like this. So it's not a regular round handle that you may be used to. And you'll also notice that I'm holding it from the top because only then can I manage the balance of the razor. Residual from Sterling is awesome, always. Phenomenal value for money. And by the way, you don't need to use any funny angle with this. Just use your normal 30 degrees and it's absolutely fine. Alright guys, first pass is done. Let's get ready for pass number 2. Alright, let's do pass number 2, east to west. These are my tougher areas. Remember guys, pressure has to be minimal. All right, let's wash up and come back for pass 3. So before we lather up for pass number 3, keep in mind how efficient this razor is. For many people, 2 passes might be sufficient. Obviously, you guys know how we roll on this channel. I am going to go for the 3rd pass and probably the 4th touch-up pass. But I would say for 7 or 8 out of 10 people, 2 passes is probably all that you need. All right, let's get started on pass number 3. All right, against the grain, pass number 3. Minimal pressure, guys. Couple of very, very small vapors. All right, let's wash up and see how's it that we did. All right, we're done. We're washed up. You guys can hear the squeaky clean, right? A couple of areas that I need to touch up, my typical ones. So let me do that off camera and then let's put the alum and see how's it that we did. All right, post-shave alum feedback. Let's take a look. Yeah, I definitely feel it here because I did have a few weepers. Yeah, I definitely feel it here as well. Feel it a little bit here and feel it a little bit on the neck. So yeah, close shave, but it's not the mildest razor out there. All right, I'm going to keep this on for 30 seconds, then wash it off, apply the splash. And during that time, what I'll do is I'll take you guys to my study. Let's do a subjective rating of the razor and we'll come back here for the final thoughts. So in terms of my subjective rating, as you guys know, I'm looking for value, fit and finish, balance, and everything else to be around good to give an overall total points of 75. So how does the Chisel Plow score? Well, in terms of value, I think it's phenomenal for $42.49 as of this recording. You're getting two heads, and it's a phenomenal price. So obviously, the rating for that is going to be great. Fit and finish, I think, is very good. Um, Overall, feel in the hand in terms of the materials used is very, very decent. So it deserves a rating of good. The balance is where I have marked it down. Like I said, it's a little top heavy, and overall, the razor is a little heavy. So I cannot, in good conscience, give it any rating greater than just okay. Now, this is where the razor shines. It is efficient. So if you're looking at something and you're okay with the balance, you can figure it out. Price is great. And you just want something which gives you an absolute BBS shave, yes, you can definitely go ahead and get that with this razor. Aggressiveness, you need to be a little careful. In terms of, A, these blades are very sharp. B, because of the positive blade exposure, you need to be a little careful with this particular razor. If you are, it will reward you with excellent shaves. So my overall rating for the razor is at a 78.75, which is higher than the 75 that I'm looking at. So I do recommend the razor. However, please keep in mind it is not for beginners. All right, so now let's get back to my final thoughts. So we're back, and to share my final thoughts with you guys. Now, you guys saw what rating it got, right? I think it's a pretty decent razor in terms of if you're looking for something which is efficient, this can be your razor. However, keep in mind it is a little aggressive. At the same point of time, keep in mind things like the balance of the razor, the weight of the razor. It's a heavy razor, the balance is top heavy. As long as you're okay with those, I think this could be an excellent razor for you. And given that it just costs around 45 bucks, you're not going to break the bank. You can try it out, and I would say 8 out of 10 times, I think you're going to like what this razor brings to the table. So that's about it, guys. So this is the start of the single edge razor reviews. This is the very first one. Many more will follow. In case there are any specific ones that you want me to review, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'll see if I have them or if I can borrow it from somebody else so that I can give my point of view to you. That's about it. Have a great week ahead, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.